We have officially ended week 3 and made it through the snow apocalypse that occurred in Houston, Texas, and Texas as a whole, and the surrounding areas, because apparently the weather machines have been acting up when it comes to the winter button. So first, I want to talk about ancient black medicine. We talked about Kemet's role in medicine, science, and how their hygiene techniques are something that are still being implemented today. Then we talked about black cesarean sections, how black folks were already doing cesarean sections before white folks. And that's so interesting because we always hear of Africa being primitive, but Africa was doing very healthy and successful and professional cesarean sections long before the Europeans got it right. Then we moved on to black immortality, how black folks do not have autonomy over our bodies. We were raped during the transatlantic dehumanization experiments. Our babies were taken from us and we were forced to have sex with our family members. We constantly are the ones getting our organs stolen. We're getting our genetic material sneakily taken from us through abortions, people keeping our placentas. We are very vulnerable people, and the story of Henrietta Lacks being immortal is just a small tip of the iceberg of what black folks go through when it comes to the lack of autonomy over our bodies. Then I talked about the black vaccine pioneer, how again we have never been dumb. It has never been an intellectual issue when it came to black people. This man who was a so-called slave was actually an intellect. He brought over knowledge from Africa that allowed us to develop this concept of vaccines. Thank you, Mama Africa, again for your contribution to biomedicine. Then I went into black girl magic. I talked about the mitochondria, which only comes from a maternal link, and that maternal link is originally from Africa. So thank you, Mama Africa, for giving us our mitochondria, which allows our cells to have energy, which allows me to open my big ass mouth and do everything that I'm doing right now, which allows my brain to process the world around me, which allows our entire bodies to be motile and functional. Thank you, Mama Africa. And that's Black Girl Magic. You are welcome, humanity. That was from a black woman. And then I talked about Dark Winter. I talked about how this whole snowpocalypse that's going on with these extreme winter weather conditions, I talked about that as biological warfare, because the same demographics who have been negatively infected by the COVID pandemic are the same ones who are going to be negatively impacted by this snowpocalypse that occurred, which seems very man-made and very planned in the sense there was no planning. So the plan was to have no plan so that when destruction happened, you could look innocent. But in reality, you just look severely guilty. What do you mean? The people who supposedly are looking for places to go on Mars doesn't have an adequate electrical supply just in case there's a natural disaster? What do you mean your water systems are immediately contaminated after a day or two of not having electricity? I think that lack of planning was the plan, and essentially that's biological warfare. That's warfare on the most vulnerable people. It's not like black people have leveled up to where we're not in the category of vulnerable. We have always been in the category of vulnerable. So I talked about Dark Winter only to address how black people are usually the victims of biological warfare. Then I left it at black scientists and talk about two scientific contributions that I wanted to discuss in that topic, and it was Dr. Sebi and a woman who got us the whooping cough vaccine, pertussis. She basically helped with finding a good bacteria culture that would make a superb vaccine. Thank you, Miss Looney. And that was the end of biomedicine.